Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
MCW faithful, you know what time it is. Every Tuesday at 8, another exciting edition of the MCW Cast. I'm Legacy, MCW announcer, Larry Legend.
I'm MCW promoter, Dan McDevitt.
And I'm Tara. Welcome to the cast.
Yes, indeed. Welcome, MCW faithful, all of our Coffee Club subscribers, all of our fans that have been tuning in faithfully. Faithful is the word of the cast, I see, out of me. For all 34 episodes, this being episode 34
That's
this
right.
week.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of last week's episode?
Yeah, we had Ray Lynn and Sam Adonis. That was a previously taped episode. They were here before our return to live events at MCW Resurrection on July 24th. So it was great to sit down with actual guests. And just so you know, we'll be doing more of that as we return to live events. And we'll be sitting down with some of our guests. So, you know, we will be putting some of those previously taped ones out into the internet world there shortly.
I guess the reason I start off with that question is I guess I kind of have a little bit of a bone to pick with the MCW faithful. When we first started the cast, we used to get a lot more traction with this Ask MCW Cast. And as of lately, I haven't been seeing too many people using the hashtag and asking us a few questions. So
Yeah.
I'm posing the question to you, the fans. What did you think of last week's episode? Tweet us at MCWcast 2021, and we'd love to hear from you. I'll respond to you right here.
Yes,
at
you
the
will.
desk, 'cause
I will never, but you will.
yeah, you still are.
You're not a real good Twitterer.
I have no interest in Twitter.
It's very,
none whatsoever.
It's cluttered. The screen
It
is so cluttered.
I don't
for
like
her.
it. It is. It's not aesthetically pleasing for me, and stuff is everywhere. And I do have it on my phone, and then I get random alerts to stuff that I don't care about, and I'm like, "What is this?" Like it'll say breaking news, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I'll click on it, and I'm like, "I don't even know who you are."
So you can
like,
turn those off.
some random person, like I was all like. Yesterday, I got like a random alert that somebody had passed away, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so sad." And then I was like, "I don't even know who you are." Like,
Yeah,
and it wasn't. I don't think it was anybody famous. Like, I think it was just like a legit person passed away.
I mean, it's just like you're an Apple user like me,
Yes,
correct?
I
And
have-
Dan, you're
I've
an
come
Apple.
over to the
Mhm,
side,
okay.
yes.
So when you first get your iPhone, there's all these default settings. One of which that I couldn't wait to turn off was like every time you text something with the keyboard, there's like a
Oh, the
like your
haptic
actual-
sounds.
right,
Yeah, turn off those.
So one of the things that I loved about all my Apple devices, my Apple Watch Series 6, my iPhone XR, is just changing the way that whoever developed it said, this is the way that the interface is supposed to be. And one of the things that Twitter does when you first set it up is you have to tell Twitter, oh, my interests are this.
Oh, I told
like
them
this.
nothing. I'm not interested in anything.
Okay, so Tara, but to start the Twitter, you had to input certain things into it. Now that you're up and running, you can turn those things off, like alerts to tell you that a celebrity that you don't even know.
It wasn't a
is-
celebrity. It was a person. That's what I don't understand why they're sending me this stuff.
It's because when you set up Twitter, you gave Twitter certain information. And then by default, now Twitter is thinking, oh, this person wants to hear about this, that, and the third. I just recommend that if you get a chance to make it sort of a little bit more streamlined. My reason that I love Twitter so much is you actually can block out a lot of the junk that you cannot block out on Facebook. There are a lot of things that as I'm going down my timeline of Facebook, I don't really care
by
about.
muting words
No,
and stuff.
You can block on Facebook. So I just star everything and make it favorite. So when I go into my Facebook, all I see are cats and memes and funny things
And
that
you can
make
do
me
the
happy.
same thing on Twitter. So whatever
You
it
can
is
use
about
words, which is
Facebook,
nice. That's what I like
whatever
about
it is about Facebook that you've done to get it the way that you want it to be, you
Yeah.
can do that with your Twitter as well. It just involves creating a profile
why do I
picture.
need
You don't need
to?
to. Well, when I tweet, and that's what has gotten us onto this subject matter of Ask MCW Cast. When I tweet, I mention Dan, I mention you, I mention our director
I
Steve,
know.
I mention a lot of people, and maybe instead of me just saying on the cast, "Hey guys, what did you think about it?" You could give that like maybe a little retweet or like, "Hey guys, I really don't know what I'm doing, but Larry wants you guys to ask us."
I
so
have 7 followers.
and I'm one of them.
Thank you.
So get on the good foot and do the bad thing with Twitter and ask the MCW Cast.
All right, Larry, I'm about to do something crazy. If you tag me in something, I swear I will respond. That goes out to the people listening.
Bernie, I hope you were watching this edition of the cast and everybody else.
You know he is.
The doctor, the good doctor, Greg Papalukas, Charles Donahue.
What have I done? Okay.
I want you to interact.
If you tag me in something, I will answer you. I can't guarantee that it'll be immediately.
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, please don't. Please don't. I don't. You know how like some people can have telephobia? You know, like people have like a phobia of phones, like telephobia.
Yeah.
Like they can't answer the phone or they can't check their voicemail. Like I get that to some degree. And like social media is right there along the same line for me. Like I don't want to see notifications. Like if I see 27 notifications when I wake up, I will just put it away. I'll literally physically push my phone away. Like I can't deal with that. Yeah. So, but I threw it out there. If you tag me in something on Twitter, I will tweet back to you. Okay.
So ask MCW Cast and tag, what is it, Tara MCW? That's your handle, right?
I think it's MCW Tara.
Tara MCW, MCW Tara, tag her, and let's get a profile picture up there of your beautiful face smiling instead of a silhouette. There's just a little ball on top of some shoulders that's like MCW Tara. I'm like, who is it? You have a smiling photo in your Twitter. I have a silhouette in memory of ACH, didn't pass away, but when he retired, you know, we all changed our photos black and white, and you know, we want to see you.
God. Okay. So I will reply and I'll post a picture. Now that's it. That's all I'm committing
post a picture,
to.
make your profile.
Make a profile picture. Okay, I'll make
a
profile picture. Oh, fine. What have you done?
I got one. I got another one. Ask MCW Cast. What do you? We know that the Bruiser Strong show is coming up. That's our next event on deck.
It is 10 days away. 10 days away from this date. Yeah.
What are you guys looking forward to seeing? You know, we know that there's going to be the big Bruiser Strong Battle Royal, so I know I can't wait to see.
That's probably the big thing.
I think
MCW champion crown.
That's right. Yeah. I guess all the answers are probably going to be that. That's what I want to see most of all. So, but also just seeing all of your faces again. Resurrection was not enough. I need more of you. So,
all right. Well, there will be more. I have no doubt that it will be a sellout show.
Yes, indeed.
So, and if you haven't gotten your tickets, you know where you can go, MCWProWrestling.com. Or if you're local to the area, stop on by Hideaway Collectibles on Holabird Avenue in lovely Dundalk, and you can pick up your tickets in person if you would like to, plus check out all of the cool merchandise and memorabilia that they have for sale.
That's right. And speaking of social media, you know, last episode, Dan, you kind of ran down the tail of the tape of, you know, our weekly, like, we want you to subscribe, we want you to like. You want to let the fans run them down one more time?
Absolutely. If you're listening on a podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, and all major podcast platforms, make sure you subscribe. That's what helps us on our algorithm. If you're listening, just make sure you subscribe to on those platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you share, like, and comment on the feed. That helps our algorithm there. And with YouTube, also, you get a lot of other content that we distribute, like the MCW Breakthrough shows, Flashback Fridays, the MCW Cast, and much more, everything that we put out. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well, MCW Pro Wrestling on YouTube.
Subscribing is the way that we remain connected. So get connected to the social media and all of us
on
all of our platforms. Also, you know, speaking of connections, I wanted to make a connection with today's guest. That's why I wore my old ROH polo. This is something that I earned during my time with Ring of Honor. And our guest this week is a ROH Dojo standout, an MCW original. We're going to have him in the studio with us right after this break. I'm talking about the classic Eric Martin.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast, and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App. MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCW Cast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And here we are live in studio with our very special guest, Classic Eric Martin. Eric, thank you for joining us here on the MCW Cast.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. I see everybody else getting to do it, so this is pretty fun for me. I've never done I've done one in-person podcast ever in my life, so this is way cooler.
Well, you definitely belong, and that check mark next to your handle on Twitter definitely says that we want you right in here in the studio.
Oh, you got a blue check mark?
That's right.
Well, it's a white
special.
check mark now. They're white now.
Wait, that means you're verified, right?
It means you're
See, I
verified,
know
but they
this.
started out as blue, Dan. You're right, but
When
now
did they check? When did they change? Recently?
I think maybe last year they changed it from a blue check mark just to a white check mark.
Oh.
But you have one, my friend,
Yeah,
and that
that's
is a hallmark of being a member of the Ring of Honor family. So thank you for joining us and giving us a little bit of a rub-ski on the social media platforms.
Did Ring of Honor help you get verified, or that how?
Whoa, we're not going to disclose any of this information.
Yeah, there's top secret information
Well,
on getting
before we
verified.
get to that, though, I have to correct you on something real quick, Larry. Before we went to break, you said an MCW original, and I do have to clarify that for our
yes,
listeners.
yes, indeed. Yeah.
Eric, you're pretty new to wrestling in general. I believe you made your debut in, 2014?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so
Yeah.
that's relatively new. When we say MCW original, we're talking like
98.
late 90s.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I am a classic, I just
you're a
age
classic.
really well.
Yes,
so.
yes, okay. But
My-
you were like 5 then, so
Yeah,
you
my first gimmick was like I would lie and pretend that I was born in like the 70s. I'd be like, yeah, I body slammed Andre the Giant in 1975 in Puerto Rico, and nobody would believe me. I'm just a horrible liar. But yeah, that's the original classic old school gimmick, how that started.
Where did you start at? Where did you train?
I was trained by MCW official Mike Keener. Started training in it's called Lighthouse. It's like the top floor of a preschool building in Kensington in Philadelphia. So
Was that Keener's place, or was
It-
Keener just training?
Keener just kind of bounces around like school
Yeah.
to school, and just he brings his guys and he trains whoever's there. He'll usually pick up like a night here and there, but yeah, he taught me the ropes.
Yeah, Mike Keener, probably one of the by far top referees in the business.
Absolutely. And inspires me, being, thought of myself as like one of the top announcers in the business. But, Keener's never stopped grinding, on the ground level. And that inspires me, people always say, why aren't you on TV? Because I'm too busy doing shows. Okay. That's why. And the same thing can be said about Keener. And also bringing up, the youth, like making sure that the foundation is laid for the next announcer to
Right.
come and really care about, the show and what it is that we do. That's awesome. So I guess that's what I was going with. Not that you were an MCW original, but you just taught me something, and I thought you trained with MCW. That's how you kind of got broken
No,
in.
but Keener did like pulls, like, hey,
yeah,
he
he came
Keener-
by way of
yeah.
birthday parties,
Yeah,
actually.
birthday
Because
parties.
Keener contacted me and said, hey, I got a couple of kids. He always calls you as
Yeah.
kids, and says, I got a couple of kids I'd like you to take a look at. Can you get them on the birthday parties? And that's the secret entrance to, sometimes to
Yeah.
MCW. Sometimes you're also told not to come back. But yes, I remember putting you on some birthday parties. It was you and Tyler and
Tony.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, there's one more person. I can see the face. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
those were pretty fun times. I mean, I came and helped set up the ring a couple of times. I was just, this was like my first like big goal in wrestling was to actually wrestle for MCW, because I saw like all the people that came in. I saw how good the other students were that were at the same level I was, and I was just like, wow, I was blown away. And like this has always been a goal of mine.
And you're local. You're close, right? You're from Philly, right? So kind of close.
Yeah, I'm from Philly. I grew up in Philly, and then I moved to Jersey. I'm actually back in Jersey now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it just I'm all over the place.
Did you go to the switch over to training with the Monster Factory a little bit too? I guess when you were kind of
So
bouncing around.
I went to the Monster Factory in 2017, where I trained with Punishment Martinez.
Mhm.
He helped me out a ton. Just
Who
kind of
is And
Damian
Damian
Priest.
Priest.
Damian Priest.
Yeah.
I
That
can
was
remember his name in
fantastic.
WWE, right?
Yeah.
The archer
Really a
of
good
guy.
infamy.
Yeah.
A really, really, really good
Looked
guy.
great.
He doesn't
at
need the rub, guys.
SummerSlam.
Yeah, yeah.
No, he taught me so much about just being like, because he's a big guy, but he's
Yeah.
not like a hulking
Yeah.
dude. And I've always like been taller than a lot of people, so I had to like kind of learn how to work that,
Mhm.
big man style,
Yeah.
but still do stuff like not just punch
Right.
people around.
Right, yeah, big sidewalk slam,
Yeah.
big like the big men moves, and he doesn't do that. He's a way more suave big
Mhm.
man, I would consider him.
So the Lighthouse you were talking about, your that school, is the school still there? Are they still around? Or?
So it was like Loco Academy, and they've since moved on. I don't even think they train anymore. I could be ignorant to that, but I haven't heard anybody.
Yeah, that's just kind of like the story of wrestling schools.
Yeah.
I mean, in my freaking 25, 30 years, I guess that's the one thing I guess makes it hard for guys. A lot of guys that unfortunately don't make the right choice. Like you kind of hustled and had someone look out for you, but you see a lot of guys that just kind of end up with a school that doesn't have, so many schools just opened up and they don't have a promotion or anything for guys to start. And then, like that's something we've battled with for years, but guys like you kind of, whether because you have someone politicking for you or you just kind of keep showing up and someone notices you and you keep trying to grind and push your way through, just because we have a core of our students that we have to find spots for, that come up through our school. So it's good. You kind of broke through. I know a lot of guys, you see a lot of guys and girls get discouraged, you know what I mean? Because maybe they get with a school that doesn't, and it's just harder for them to really kind of get their feet under them and get going and start getting on shows.
Something that I noticed is like a lot of people, like I would go and train at these schools that had shows because hoping just to be like, hey, but even if I'm not getting on the event per se, I'm still learning and getting better and networking with all the students there. So I'm not necessarily just doing something for, XYZ. That would be nice, but at least you're seeing me like, hey, keep it. I even came down here and trained a couple times, and it was an eye opener. Like, oh man, I need to get my cardio up and do some. All of us, we just went back to. We were training at CZW at the time when we came here, and we went back and we were just like blow up drill, because your cardio needs to be way better.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned before about showing up and helping set up and. Like, for something for young people out there, if there's a young person in the business, wrestling business, wondering how it's amazing how much that just kind of makes you stand out. Like for me, I remember seeing that, but I also always talk about MJF.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
MJF would come down and I'm like saying to RJ and like Dean, and there's like, because he was good looking kid, he was in shape, and then I'm like, isn't that kid from like Jersey? I knew he was like a Wrestle Pro guy from up there, and then they'd be like, yeah, the dude comes down, he's helping set up, and I remember being like, dude, we gotta put this guy on a show or something.
Yeah,
it just kind of stood out, like those
Yeah.
kind of things really make you stand out, for me being the promoter standpoint of just those extra things of like you want to get an opportunity and you want to get on a show and that hunger, that desire to kind of break through.
That kid had it, man.
Yeah.
I worked him when we both worked like when we were both like probably 2 years or probably like less than 2 years in, and man, that's one of my favorite matches. It's on YouTube, but yeah, it's pretty fun match. But you like when somebody's like really like got it, and early on you could tell like he gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mikey Whitbrick has a very, very impressive track record of people that have come under his learning tree, and Max is one of them. And I was going to piggyback on that. I used to see Max at Ring of Honor. Whenever Ring of Honor would be at the Hammerstein Ballroom, be right there for one of the first guys there.
Who's that?
MJF.
Really?
Loading the barricades in, one of the last guys there, breaking the ring down. And I knew he was already on the kind of incline, and he never stopped. And look at him now.
Yeah.
So it
Killing
says a
it
lot.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to show up. You got to be seen. Yep.
Now, was this something you had always dreamed about, being a professional wrestler? Is this a childhood dream, or walk us through that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are kind of like that. I grew up just watching like old school WWF. Like my dad was a fan, but not like crazy over the top kind of fan. But we would just watch it casually on Monday nights, and like I had all the action figures, and then I kind of got out of it until I was about 10 years old. This is like the lamest how I got back into wrestling story. I had money for Christmas, and I bought I had a PlayStation Portable, and I
Mhm.
bought a SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, and I was like, this is awesome. And then I just started watching Royal Rumble 2006, and then WrestleMania 22, and I was hooked. Like I was just
You say that that's like the silliest way to get back into wrestling, but that's why the games even exist. That is
Yeah.
it's to hook you
Yeah.
back into it, the toys and everything, and they kind of work hand in glove, you know, because you mentioned you had all the figures, right?
when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you grew up and you're into your game now, and then you know probably some of those same feelings you had when you were playing with your actual figures. You had those emotions stirred up inside of you, and then you're Royal Rumble into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I
and-
saw John Cena and Batista on the cover of that game. I was like, boy, oh boy, I gotta get that.
yeah,
So I did.
right on.
Now I steal all their moves.
I'm surprised you could see John Cena on the cover of it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know you can't see him.
That's not like the longest running, like dumbest thing that still makes me laugh.
Oh,
like,
me too.
15
The
years
memes?
later, just the memes.
Oh,
and
I
stuff,
love
you
them,
know, when
dude.
people-
I love
I'll
them.
just casually on Facebook or Twitter and see someone make a comment. You know, it'll
Yeah,
like
they'll
see
be
it'll
like-
be on the. It'll be like a TMZ promoting a like Fast and Furious movie, and I'll look, and then people in the comments will be like, who's on the like I don't see anybody. You know what I mean? It's like, you just know that's a wrestling fan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I love them.
well, it's just Vin Diesel. What are you talking about? Vin Diesel's
Yeah.
the only one on it. You know what I mean? It just makes me like burst out laughing because it's like that's obviously a wrestling fan.
Yeah, who knew
Like
that
him
that
with
would
a-
last that
Yeah,
long? It's
right.
still like,
and then,
you know.
but then you see people like, what are you talking about? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you just know
Right.
a wrestling fan made that comment. You know,
So when you were watching, I got a follow up to what you just mentioned. When you were watching as a kid, and you know toys, who was like? I like to find out the era that you really were watching. So who was like your favorite growing up?
My favorite growing up was like Chris Jericho. It was my all-time favorite. I always like just remember the name,
Mhm.
and then I was like, dude, that's just a cool name. He looked cool, and I was a real big Chris Jericho fan.
I was a big Chris Jericho fan too, and I'm a bit older than you. I was going down watching him and Lance Storm in Smoky Mountain as the Thrill Seekers.
Oh yeah, you're taking us
When I was
back
kid,
now.
man. I was
Uh-huh.
a year or two in the business, and he was a couple years ahead of me.
Mhm.
You know, and I went down to Smoky Mountain, and they were just a couple years in. They had just come to the States.
Yeah.
Cornette brought him in, and I was just, you know, it was a young Lionheart, Chris Jericho.
Yep.
But I remember then I was a fan of him way back then, just watching it. And Lance Storm, I just watched them, and they were ahead of their time
For
you know, with the stuff they were doing.
Yeah, I became a fan of him in ECW before he landed in WWF. But I was really anti WCW, so I wouldn't even watch Nitro at all. I was strictly WWF, so I wouldn't even watch
yeah,
it.
you had the WWF flag.
Yeah, hard, bro. Like I would maybe if the Nasty Boys were on, I would flip over to ECW, but I really didn't like. I just was anti. But when the ECW library started being put on tape, those pioneer videos, and you know we really didn't get ECW down here, so I got to see a lot of the matches, and I remember I was like, oh, that's that guy that everyone talks about on WCW. He came from ECW, you know. So
Yeah, remember how like his debut in WWE was so anticipated, like the build that they
Mhm.
did up to that. Like I remember that. I mean, they just
I just saw
that
something
whole
like a week or
Y2J
two ago
thing.
on like the greatest debuts
yeah.
of all time, and they ranked his number one.
Him and
Hi-
his and
debut on
Taz,
Raw,
they were
yeah.
both around
Yeah.
the same time period, and those two, like
It was
I
really
can't remember
good.
half the
The
matches I was ever
Y2J,
in, but I remember those.
I guess it was it around. It was before 2000, right? Because they played off the.
that this is
It was
coming.
It was
2000,
99.
It
wasn't
was.
it?
It was
Or
99,
It was
yeah.
99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
okay.
they played
Like the
off the.
summer.
Remember,
Right.
remember everybody. Do you remember? We're showing our age. You remember, like people legitimately thought
Yeah.
at midnight
Clocks would stop,
that
computers would
everything was gonna
die,
stop
everything.
99 when it turned 2000 because they think computers weren't programmed for it. They legitimately thought like
Right.
we were
Satellites
gonna go
were
black.
gonna
We
fall.
yeah,
You know, like-
yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. So they were playing
So
off
they
of
played
that.
off of that.
And he
Right.
came
You
in,
know.
yeah.
But that was like a perfect build. Like, you know what I mean? It was just, and then when that day came, like you were just excited, you know, when it was finally time for him to arrive. Like I that sticks out in my mind as one of.
Well, when I got back into it in like 2006, he was
Mhm.
coming back. He came back in December of 07, but he was always like the guy. I would go back because they still had WWE Network on demand.
Oh
like,
yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
watch all that old stuff, and I'm like, oh man, Jericho, like that's my dude.
Mhm.
And then like he was coming back, and I was like, this is my dude. He's got a new haircut, sparkly vest. I'm like, this is awesome.
But he didn't say anything. That's the time when he came out and he would just keep smiling. Do you remember he came out
I
and he
remember
wouldn't
that.
like he wouldn't say
Yeah.
anything. He would just be like smiling and then
Yeah.
he started to do his promos and he was totally different. He wasn't like yelling Jericho,
Mm-hmm.
young man, but he was almost like a Ric Flair version or like a
He's a great
businessman.
example of a guy that's just like much like Undertaker and a few others that just
Madonna.
got it and
yeah.
continued to reinvent himself.
Even to this day.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
are you also a Fozzy fan?
I do like Fozzy. I like their first album. I was just like, that was my jam back in the day. I haven't really gotten into like their newer stuff, but I mean,
I
it
hated
is,
the first album. I hated it.
man.
Hate
I
is such a strong word.
It was, and I hated
are you
it.
kidding me? Enemy? That's a banger.
I just didn't like it. I think I was just disappointed. And I think the reason why is because I heard his live performance before I heard the studio version, and it tarnished it for me because it was not perfect and
Yeah.
like it sounded like crap. And so from in my head I was like, oh, the whole thing is gonna suck. And even when I tried to listen, I had that in my head.
Yeah.
But I like the newer stuff. Like before the big shutdown, I had tickets to go see
Yeah.
Fozzy down at Baltimore Soundstage.
Well, TNA like used that song in a promo package, so everybody was like, "Oh, Jericho's gonna go to TNA." So I was like, "I'm gonna watch TNA." Like, and I got into like some 06 like TNA, but never happened. I was just, Christian
06
Cage is
TNA.
cool.
Yeah, that was the good
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when it was hot because that was when we
Yeah.
came back
Mm-hmm.
after a
And
couple years.
they were coming in,
Yeah, we
giving
were
us a
using
little
lot
bit of the
AJ and Chris Daniels,
Petey
and
Williams,
Joe.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, we were getting a rub off the TNA guys.
Yes,
at the
indeed.
time.
Jay Lethal, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, all right. So, at what point then did you say this is where I want to go? Like when you graduated high school? Like what did you?
So I started while I was in high school. So I started training my senior year. I just got done playing football. It's weird. I never really like worked out while I played football. I guess I'm an idiot. But like, I started training, like working out, and a guy, Chuck Payne, he's going around on like the indies a little
I
bit.
know Chuck.
Yeah, we went to high
came-
school together.
Yeah, he came with you when you started coming to the birthday
Right.
parties. Yeah.
And he told me I was too small to wrestle because he had just started, and I was like, okay, dude. And then he saw me a couple weeks later. I was at a Wawa, but I was just, I guess he was in a different mood that day. But he was like, oh yeah, I'm training with this guy in Philly. If you want to come, and that was like March of 2014.
You were still in high school at the time?
Yeah, I went that Monday. I told Kmart, I'm like, yo, I need off Monday. Sorry.
Shout out Kmart.
Yeah, I used to be Emart from Kmart. So
I was
that was
working
like,
at Chuck E. Cheese when I started wrestling.
yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Oh.
And when I first came around, I was working at Old Navy.
Yeah.
Remember them?
TGI Fridays.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Shout
I
out to all
remember
our
telling
old
Chuck E.
places.
Cheese, I can't work weekends anymore.
Yep.
I'm a pro wrestler.
Yep.
You know?
So I went and trained. I learned how to bump, and then I just kind of just did it every week since.
So Chuck Payne was talking about Keener when he was like, I know this guy that you
Yeah.
could train with. Okay, at the Lighthouse.
Yep. And we went there. It was him and I don't know if you guys know Primetime Teddy Fine. He was a PWU guy.
Oh,
Philly
I know
guy.
Primetime. He used to be tag team partners with Drew Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he was one of my trainers. He helped me tremendously. I still talk to him to this day, come up with ideas, and I remember going to PWU in Philly, and he would be there, and he like took my soda one time on a show. I was like, well, you owe me money, so I'm taking this off my training. But then I remember Keener, and
Right?
yeah,
That's the
That sounds
best.
like something Mark Schrader would
Yeah,
say.
that was
Yeah.
definitely
So this-
Mark
I'm
Schrader.
taxing you on this one.
Mhm.
You
$2,
napkin.
Captain.
Yeah.
$2 fit.
yep, that was my $2.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I just remembered seeing them from PWU, and then just kind of bonded with Mike really like ever since. I talk to Mike pretty much every single day of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny with the connections. Like a lot of the times I'm getting to know you,
Mhm.
but it turns out like we've walked the same paths quite a bit. And you had mentioned CZW at some point. Was that a little bit later after?
So that was like 2015, 2016, because we just kind of stopped going over to Philly. It didn't really make sense. All the guys that were training were from Philly. I mean, we're from Jersey, so it was like, let's find somewhere in between, and that was right in Blackwood,
Mhm.
which is like 5 minutes from like where I was living. So we all just kind of would carpool there, train, and then I would just brush shoulders with a lot of guys that were going up there. It's kind of I met Leo and when he was down here, But then I remember seeing him at Dojo Wars and just kind of getting to know him there. And then brushed shoulders with Drew Gulak, trained with him a couple times. So many guys just came through there, and I just would learn from.
See, for all of the flack that CZW gets from the internet wrestling community, they have been brought up so much on this podcast, if not for anything else but just a place to train. And I, for one, not just because I was a part of CZW for so many years, but I just hope that in some future they can get themselves back together to having a training facility that can kind of be on the the road map of NYWC up in New York, Maryland Championship Wrestling or MCW Pro down here in Maryland, in the middle of the Philly, Jersey area, you got the CZW because it's important. And, our guests, we've had so
Lots
many
of
guests.
history.
Lots of history.
Have they relaunched their shows or anything?
No,
or no?
well,
I think
we
there's
don't-
something coming up.
I've heard something.
There's
I've
some
heard
rumblings.
something. Yeah, but I don't know what it is.
They haven't announced anything.
They haven't announced anything. But they changed the logo.
Everything's hearsay until they announce.
Exactly.
Right.
They tweeted soon about
Right.
2 months ago.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll hear about some more on your journey and some other places that you've worked since then. So stay with us and we'll be right back.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, and we are back with the classic,
That's right.
Eric Martin.
That's right.
So before we were talking about all the places you were kind of grinding your way through and getting into different promotions and schools and just kind of grinding your way up. And then in, I guess it was 2019, you get invited to the ROH, the Ring of Honor Dojo.
Yeah, it was. I was talking to Will Ferrara. It was actually at MCW. I wrestled Nick Camarado. I was talking to Will. He was like, "Hey, you just come down and train." So I came down for a couple training sessions, and then I went to Germany, trained at WXW, and I came back, and they were like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Eric. You remember?" And then Will was like, "Oh yeah. I told him you can come train down here." And I was like, "That's cool." So that's how I got into the Ring of Honor Dojo.
So push pause on ROH Dojo for a minute. You went to Germany. How long were you in Germany?
I was in Germany for 6 weeks. I was training at WXW Wrestling Academy with Timothy Thatcher and Walter.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Really?
so
So
that was
did you
pretty
work
fun.
shows while you were over there? And
So I was going to do one show for them because somebody got hurt. They worked it out, but I wound up going and wrestling in Holland, which was pretty cool. Like I was at Pro Wrestling Holland, your original name, and
Yeah.
I was just like, that was a cool experience. I went to Amsterdam, but it was Super Bowl Sunday, so I had to get back to the Irish pub and watch the most boring Super Bowl game of my life, Patriots and Rams.
that's interesting. So for people coming up too, so like in that situation, did you kind of finance your own trip to get over there just to kind of get contacts? And
So yeah, I had reached out to them, and then they kind of went cold on me and like weren't answering me. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then they followed up, and they were like, "Listen, we'll take care of, like, we'll match the original price that we originally set on because I guess the price went up." And I was like, "Okay, I'll come out." And then I went out in January of 2019. There we go. And then came back.
yeah, so that's a good experience that a lot of guys don't get. So I mean, you've really in the 5 or 6 years, kind of bounced around a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of grinded your way through a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been trying to train. I just like picking brains and like kind of learning different styles because like there's always that like their flavor of ice cream. It's just, there's a bunch of different ways to do stuff in wrestling, and I'm just trying to learn a lot of them and get booked.
Well, and so you've been with the dojo now. Well, I guess is the dojo back up and running now? It's kind of push pause for a while. 'cause
Yeah,
everything
I
was
think they're
going
still
in
on
the world.
pause because I think some stuff is like wonky with their training facility. I'm not totally sure, it's above my pay grade.
Right.
But I mean,
But you've been popping up you've been doing stuff on TV and been getting on the TV tapings and things like that, little bits and pieces get dripped in.
Yeah,
that's kind of how you work your way in.
Yeah, so I've just been, showing up, doing the ring crew stuff. They take care of us, and I just try to have the best matches I can when I go out there. And I think next time I go out there, I'm just gonna leave it all out there, just show them like this is what I got.
And one thing I noticed about you from a promoter standpoint, you've really transformed your body.
Yeah,
and been focusing a lot on your body.
Yeah,
which makes all the difference in the world because it's it's a cosmetic business. But it's also something else that it makes promoters and all stand out. Like, man, this guy's really going the extra mile. To present as the total package of what people want to see.
Well, I mean, I look around at the Ring of Honor dojo, and like you got Joe Keys and you got Dante Caballero and even Ken Dixon. That dude's pretty, yeah. So I was like, man, I gotta step it up.
Business. I never understood with young guys and so many. I mean, it's a thing you see a lot in the indies, and you'll like it amazes me that guys don't understand. Like the person that you always. I'll hear they try to make the argument as like a Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen as a guy that's not, like a body guy. But I was like, yeah, but you're talking about a guy that's so unbelievably talented.
Oh, he's special.
You know what I mean? He's special. He's like so ridiculously talented. And like, so you're trying to use that as your reason for not working out and getting yourself into shape.
Laziness.
To appear that, so you're going to compare yourself to a guy that you don't even have 1/50th of the talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Like, it's something that you would think it would come natural, that if you're going to make it to that level, if you're going to get to AEW or
and the gold standard has always been, what is WWE looking for? And it's no secret that they've always looked for the bigger, larger than life guys. I mean, rumor has it that, they're putting out the edict that they will not be hiring anybody over the age of 30 or that isn't, that big, superhero physique. And, which I know everybody has opinions about that. But if you want to be noticed, you have to look like what they're looking for,
right?
So
yeah. I mean, I've put on a lot of size. I went and see. I think a lot of guys aren't educated on physical fitness, and a lot of the general population needs help with stuff. I was a personal trainer. I just love fitness, but however, I went and got a coach. It's a guy I've worked with in the past. He's a good friend of mine, does bodybuilding training, but I'm one of his lifestyle clients, and I've put a lot of wrestlers onto him, and they've worked with him, and he's really helped me transform my physique and really optimize my food. So the way I present it to people, it's like that helped me take the thinking out of it. So I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. I don't have to think about what I'm going to train that day. It's like it's already laid out for me. Now, how much consistency and effort and hard work I put in, that falls on me. So not being educated really isn't an excuse, I don't think, because there's tons of information available on the web on YouTube alone. Like I learned a little bit myself, and I'm like, guys, you can really go out there and you can transform your body if you really want to. If you really want it, I think that shows it. It just shows that you care about your general health as opposed to just, hey, I'm working out for wrestling. It's like, no, man, like you should work out to be healthy. You know?
And people, I'm a certified personal trainer as well, and people just work out wrong, or they'll put all these hours into the gym but not into the kitchen. And it makes such a big difference when you can look at it from a whole body perspective, and all the things that you need to do, all the parts that need to be in play in order for you to achieve those goals. Because so many guys, you see them, in the gym, they're there every day and they look exactly the same as when they first walked in the door at the gym. Years later, they still look the same. Well, they're doing something wrong, obviously. Yeah,
but those guys are still a little bit more healthy than the guy that doesn't even get in there. Like
I'm not knocking that, but it's just, if you want to make a transformation, it's more than just picking up the same weights over and over again, or you know what I mean. Doing the same workout that you did when you were in high school weightlifting class is not what you need, at different stages of your life. Like there's just different ways to work out and different things to switch up, and ways to trigger that muscle memory and get it going, and get your body to change. So it's really a whole package.
I see so many guys just in wrestling that come up to me now and just like talk to me about, I'm far from a body guy, but like I'm like you said, like I've gotten a little bit bigger and just trying to and they'll talk to me about stuff. I'm like, yeah, man, like could you imagine like if you were like 10 pounds less, how much better you would be. And they're like, yeah, I know, but I'm like, yeah, look, yeah, but. It's
Right.
my-
Yeah, but, right.
Put it out of
Not my
face, yeah.
vocabulary.
The answer should have been yes. Like,
Yeah,
that's
or
it. Just
just,
stop
like,
there.
It's
Like,
very
okay.
RJ of you.
Well,
It was very RJ. The answer should have been yes.
But yeah,
we used to go work out actually when he got back, when he made his big comeback and he was in the best shape of his life.
Ah, he
We
was
were going
fantastic
to
looking.
because that was when I got my personal trainer certificate. Actually, we would go to Forza 24-hour gym and we would work out as ex-husband and wife. But it was you gotta do all that. So
But
that's great. Well, it's paying off clearly.
yeah,
Yes, indeed.
but yeah, the other guys at the dojo were my reason for, transforming my body, because it's like I gotta compete with
Absolutely,
these.
yeah.
They're my friends, but they're my competition too.
Mhm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? At the end of the day.
You ain't
Right.
no slouch.
Right.
So speaking of the ROH dojo and getting yourself transformed, tell us a little bit about that opportunity that you had to be in the Future of Honor tournament, something that launched Leo Rush into the stratosphere in some regard. And
So at the time, Future of Honor was just like an event that they were having here. They were started at the Monster Factory, but it really excelled here. So I actually wasn't in a tournament per se, but I worked.
oh, you know what? I'm thinking of Top Prospect. I'm sorry. The
Yeah,
Top
right.
Prospect tournament.
I wish they brought the Top Prospect. I mean, I'm sorry to the other guys. I'm, just,
Right.
I'm the tallest prospect. No, I'm just kidding. But I wrestled Ryo and I wrestled Robbie, and I believe I had a four-way with Dak Draper, Sledge, and Ryo.
Yeah, I remember the first Future of Honor actually was all the way up in, I think, Centralville, PA.
Oh, yeah.
Way back in 2017, I think it was 2016. It was a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ryo, another MCW homegrown. So
Yeah, we had him on the cast not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. And so you were immersed with a lot of MCW guys. Still doing the Future of Honor and in the ROH dojo. So.
Yeah.
You got a good track record with ROH. That's why I wore the polo.
Love that Ryo.
Well, and this goes back to like the area that we're in. This area, we're just so close to everything, and you're able to travel an hour or so and work with lots of different people. And in fact, I wanted to bring up one of our most recent guests that we had on the air. She also has trained here as well as Trish Adora. We just had Trish 2 weeks ago, and it's just this great way that you can connect and meet other people and train and feed off of each other. So.
Oh yeah, she's great. Trish is great. She's bringing it. She's doing great on Women of Honor. But I mean, she would get into the boys and throw us around, or like she brings it, man. She don't.
Yeah.
She
We
don't
talked
hold
a
back.
lot about that intergender wrestling with her when we had
Yeah.
her on the air 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed.
So I totally lost my train of thought.
I got some other things
bad.
on the night format that I can bring
totally
up.
lost my train of thought. What I wanted to ask you, it just totally slipped.
So Future of Honor. Let's talk about accolades. Achievements. I understand you were a former DCW Tag Team Champion,
Heck yeah. DC. I was DCW Heavyweight Champion.
and that's Delaware.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Dynamite Championship
Dynamite
Wrestling.
Championship
I'm
Wrestling.
sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Ooh La La. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
Okay, all right. I follow you.
Monsieur Ooh La La. Yes, sir.
Indeed.
Ooh la
I
la.
love Ooh La La.
Yes. Oh, he's great.
He's the man.
That guy's been around forever.
Oh my
He's
God.
great.
I
He's
had
worked
some-
a couple birthday parties
I've had
down
a
here
ton
for
of.
us.
I worked with him quite a lot in my early years, and just going out there and just feeling it. That's a big thing. I also beat him by side headlock takeover, so that's a good pat on the back for me. Heck yeah,
Yeah.
baby.
Was that an accidental
DCW's
win?
got a show
No,
coming up
side
on
headlock takeover.
the 18th. Are you on that one?
I
September
will,
18th?
no, I will not be
Yeah.
on that one. I'll be in North Jersey for ECWA.
Wow.
And you are a former ECWA Tag Team Champion.
That's right. Just carrying,
I
carrying
segued.
so
I'm
many
segue
partners
master.
throughout the years.
And a former MCW.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. That John Schuyler kid, he's doing all right now, huh?
I must have got the rub
Did he
from
get
you.
signed? Did he get signed?
I believe he's with Impact now. I'm
Signed
not
with Impact?
totally
He's
sure.
a talented guy. Yeah.
If he's watching it, John, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Don't
Yeah, I
text
saw
me.
something online recently, and it sounded like he got signed.
Yeah, he beat Matt Cardona on TV. So
Wow, he beat
Nice.
the GCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Wow.
Amazing. on
Yeah.
TV.
Great.
roll up.
Good thing the belt wasn't on the line.
Yeah, he's the heater.
So you've had a lot of tag team experience.
hmm
So do you see yourself as more of a tag team guy, or would you like to be more of a singles guy? What do you see yourself?
I mean, I'm pretty versatile. I can really do either one. I'd spent a lot of years in tag team wrestling. Like a lot of places that I would go is just they'd be like, "Oh, we need a team." I'm like, "All right, yeah, well, I got you." Like I've teamed with so many just different people. I'd be in like 4 different companies just teaming with like a million different people.
Right.
And, but like I learned probably the most. Like me and Tyler, like I was the more experienced of the two. Just I had a year on him, and just he's not in the business anymore. But whatever. Skyler taught me so much. Teaming with him was just like, I got it. And we were put in some pretty, like, really good positions.
We gave you guys
here.
some good matches.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we gave you guys some good matches.
Yeah, it was probably, like, I love teaming with Tyler. That guy's like one of my best friends now. But teaming with Skyler was just so informative and educational because he's worked with so many people.
Right.
And he's just passing that knowledge down to me. And
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Each one to teach one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why when we wanted to put you guys together, that was kind of one of the thought process.
And for our fans listening, they were the Outlaws. Yep.
Saviors.
The Saviors.
Well, no, it's okay because I probably called you the Outlaws. I think I announced you one time.
That's cool. I mean, we were a
The
couple of
Saviors.
outlaws. You know?
Oh, you know what? I was confusing it with the Appalachian Outlaws because they were kind of ending their thing here
Yeah.
at MCW, and then you guys came in.
It's easy to get me and Bo confused. We're both pretty jacked. I get it.
I'm sorry.
No,
Here
it's
I was
okay.
like
Wow,
trying
it's
to
all
clarify,
coming
and I
back to me.
screwed
The
it all
Appalachian
up.
Outlaws. That was awesome.
They were awesome.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were great. Yeah, Bo Nakota was fantastic.
I'm not sure.
I feel like the year-long shutdown with everything,
Yeah.
it ended a lot of people's careers.
Yeah, and
At
some
least
people
put it on hiatus
Or
for
like
you know.
for temporary, whether it's temporarily or it seems like there's a lot of guys that haven't come back.
Well, and I
Or
think
just kind
if
of
I'm
pushed
not mistaken, Bo Nakota lived quite a ways away, and maybe there just wasn't anything around for him to do it.
Yeah,
so I believe he was one of our guys who traveled 2 or 3 hours for every
He
show
did
to get
Well, he
here.
really
so,
lived in the Appalachian Mountains.
I don't know if he did that, but like, you know, he lived somewhere that was a distance. So probably all that stuff just shriveled up and died during the shutdown, to be honest. He probably just had nowhere to go. So
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of indie promotions that haven't come back too, huh?
Well,
It seems like some of the bigger
I'm
ones.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, did you ever make your way up to NYWC and do anything with them?
I worked there once. They did a show at the Monster Factory, but I've always brushed past with a lot of guys from up there. Like Rex Lawless is like a really good, buddy of mine. Like every time I see him, it's like we never missed each other. It's just you know what I mean? Like wrestling's weird like that. You can just go up to people and be like, you don't even say you have to say what's up. It's just you start a conversation. It's just he's one of those guys that I've never had a problem just talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Dan, for a little while when I was a New Yorker, NYWC was kind of like my, I dare say it was like my MCW. It was more or less my home fed that
Was that Mikey's?
That's it was, yeah. And they have so many different students that have gone on.
Yeah.
John Silver, Alex Reynolds, both on AEW.
Is John Silver, is he a Mikey guy?
Yeah, he's a Mikey guy. Well, see, it was Tony Nese and Trent Barretta who really were the head trainers, but Mikey definitely had his hand in training a lot of those guys and providing a school and then the shows to support, you got to pay your dues and come to training and, help out on shows and get on.
It was really good for them because they also rented out their license, right? If I'm not mistaken. And they'd be like, hey, man, some of my boys need to get on. And like, that's smart. I mean, like, that's a great way.
That's how I got, I wrestled on that's how I got going when I started wrestling in 92 and 93, a ways back. Dennis, who's my partner now at MCW, he was running a promotion then, and he did ring rentals, and he did a ton of ring rentals. And he was like, can you do ring rentals? And I was like, well, he needed, I was a young guy, and he wasn't making much for the ring rentals, but I was like, I'll do them if you can get me on the shows. So, you know what I mean? If I can wrestle. So I was, you know what I mean? I started getting, one of the things that helped me out, I started getting on a lot of shows because he would say, you got to use my guy. You know what I mean? I tell the promoters, I got a guy
He's
or
bringing
two.
the ring.
I mean, yeah, I'm
right?
bringing the ring. I got a guy or two. You got to get on the show.
Yeah.
And then like Chad, Austin would do it with us a lot. Yeah. And we would get other guys here and there, but I was a constant, like always. So it was again, that's why I think too, like I kind of respect that, and that stands out to me, like talking about guys showing up and helping out and doing extra, because it's kind of how I broke in and how I got, started getting around and getting shows. I did that. I'll go haul the ring too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I don't care if it can, I didn't even care if I got paid to wrestle.
You just,
you're
just happy to be there.
Dennis would always like buy me a hot dog or something.
Wow, put up a handshake.
The
Hey, kid, let me get you a
the old
hot
hot dog and a handshake to put up the ring. But if I got to wrestle, I didn't care.
Yeah.
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 The connections that are made when you're kind of that journeyman style of like getting yourself all the way up.
And you guys, sometimes you gotta make these really long drives, and it might not always be worth it, but like you're doing it. I mean, I've made so many just long drives, and I'm just like, I hear people complain about it. I'm like people in my everyday life, they're like, oh, I gotta drive like 2 hours to go do something.
Oh, I know.
2 hours.
Right.
Like, I drove 14 hours in Nashville just because I was gonna punch somebody in the face. No, but it was just like, oh man, 14 hours compared to that. I'm like, and I would drive back. Like we did a trip to Florida, 16 hours down, did our thing, came back just right away.
Right.
No hotel.
Yeah.
So it was like, there's
I would
three
go
of
up
us.
to Boston and all
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd always think the same thing when I'd hear people complain about, like, that's so far, and it's like, that's 30 minutes. And like, well, I would drive when I was young up 8 hours, wrestle, turn around, and I even think about getting a hotel.
Yeah.
You tell people that I drove 8 hours.
We
I'm
did
there
those
for
girl shows. We drove to Massachusetts every month. You
and
know,
we're there
didn't
for
even-
an hour or two, and
Yep.
you do the man. You turn around, and you drive 8 hours back. And
I'd go straight to work. We'd get
Yeah.
back at 6 a.m. I'd be at work by 7. Like no sleep.
Yeah,
It's the life.
It is, and you're right. When people outside of wrestling hear you talk about it, they're like, "What?"
I'm like,
I guess it was 2 years ago. I took my mom and my kids to the Grand Canyon and to Las Vegas and stuff, and they're like, "How are we getting from place to place?" And then we went to Phoenix. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna drive," and they're like, "But it's like 5 hours each segment." Like I booked this whirlwind vacation, right? And each segment was like 5 hours apart. And I'm like, "Well, I'm just gonna rent a car and drive," and they're like, "What?" And then we're going to go to the Grand Canyon. And they're like, "We're going to do stuff after you drive?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. Like that's just what you do."
yeah, you guys can sleep in the car, I guess.
Right.
I
I'm fine. 5 hours. That's no
Red
big
Bull.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me exactly. Give me a bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just a different lifestyle, you know, like, and people,
That could have been
people don't
taken
know. Oh, God.
several different ways.
I wasn't going to say
Bang.
anything.
Bang energy drink, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
We just got sidetracked.
Anyway,
here.
key lime pie is my favorite flavor. How about you?
It's an acquired
See, now
taste.
I tell you, have you had the Mountain Dew energy drinks?
I have not.
I
don't like
that.
Mountain Dew.
I don't
I
think
like the
that
blue
they
kind. I
have,
like
like-
the blue one.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
that's
like
the
that
only
blue,
one. I don't
yeah.
like Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
never a
The-
dude.
I don't
The
really
Mountain Dew energy
drink
drinks are pretty good.
soda. Like, I don't know.
I don't enjoy it. Eric, I'm just rattling off companies that I've been associated with and involved with. Any Beyond Wrestling for you? Did you make your way up to Rhode Island or?
I've never wrestled for Beyond. I just did IWTV 100.
Oh, you were. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wrestled Kevin Blackwood on there, so that was pretty
That's
sick.
Right.
Yeah, that was a really fun match. Like that was like,
That
all
was
right,
one
man.
of his best matches. Well,
What can I say?
you brought it out of him.
No, but yeah, no. I really just gotta. I'm trying to network with Drew and just try to.
Well, that was a great event to be on because that was, IWTV is kind of in bed with Beyond the
Yeah.
Uncharted Territory, and a lot of their program comes from that area. So
Yes, sir.
that was a good look for you.
All right. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll get right back on to some more of your accomplishments and achievements. So stay with us.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, back here, MCW Cast, right here in the studio, live with our guest, the classic Eric Martin. Now, I have been mentioning that moniker quite a bit, including on our episode of Breakthrough that you performed on, and I had the pleasure of announcing you for the very first time. Where did that come from?
So I was old school Eric Martin when I made my debut at DCW. Like that was the first time, because I originally started wrestling as Kid USA.
I love it.
Heck yeah, baby.
Yeah.
So many people do like a USA
I still
themed
got a-
gimmick, patriotic
I still
gimmick
got a
when they
burner.
started.
It works.
It's
burner,
easy, yeah.
burner Kid USA account. It's the worst kept secret in Twitter. But when I started doing stuff as like me, I was old school Eric Martin. Keener had asked one of his friends, like, what do you think of him? Like, I had like this old school look. I had a red satin jacket, towels, and then I would cut promos like, I wrestled Tito Santana, and then I wrestled Tito Santana at ECWA, and it just kind of kept rolling from there. Tyler Stone debuted, and we were at training the one night, and this kid did something, and we like roasted him, and like, you should have seen his face. Classic, like just quoting The Hangover. And then sure enough, we were just like, oh, we're the classics. Yeah, the Hammer, Tyler Stone, old school Eric Martin, the classics. And then when he stopped wrestling, I was like, people would just call me Yo Classic. Like, so I just kind of rolled with it. And that's where I got classic Eric Martin from.
And that's how a lot of names and stuff like that just kind of evolve from. Just like guys joking and cutting up and busting chops. You know, before we
like Stone Cold Michael
shout
LaParca.
out to before we started taping this episode, we were talking, I was reminiscing. There was a guy in I don't know if you were in here. Were you in here when
I
we
was
saw
sitting
Michael
there.
LaParca?
Yeah, I was here. I was listening to it.
This guy Michael LaParca, who back in the early 90s came up with this big idea, and he was going to come down the wrestling school. It was the Monster Factory in Baltimore, run by Dwayne Gill at the time.
Oh.
And he debuted to us. His new name was going to be Stone Cold Michael LaParca, and that was years before, you know, Steve Austin. And we said to him, Stone Cold, what a dumb name.
What'd you say? Axel said it was the dumbest name ever or something?
Axel said, that's the dumbest name ever. Like, and then he was like, oh, okay. And we were like, yeah. And then years later, Steve Austin made millions and millions of dollars off of Stone Cold. So I guess we were wrong. We guess we were wrong. You know what I mean? He's probably sitting home today in 2021 going, damn. Like, those guys cost me a lot of money. I trusted them when they said that's the dumbest name ever.
He was 100% just punching the air as soon as that just dropped on TV. He's like, this dude, are you serious, dude?
Maybe not right away, but after about 327th T-shirt, that was all over Monday Night Raw.
You know, there was a time where you could walk into your Walmart and see a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt there. It was probably driving him crazy.
He's just sitting there. He's like, I say what all the time. Like, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
He stole his whole gimmick.
Man.
So,
Tough break.
man, I guess for a guy coming up that's kind of pushing through trying to get his break, it's exciting times in pro wrestling. You know, for a long stretch there, it was just like, say, WWE, and that was the only place to go. Now you got like Ring of Honor, where you're put AEW's breaking through. You got Impact, MLW is on television, and then a lot of, you know, your top indies and places. Just, it seems like a really good time for a young guy trying to push through, and everybody's kind of grabbing talent. Something like AEW Dark seems like a great place for a lot of guys. You know, a lot of guys are getting opportunities because they get a lot of views. But I guess you know, it's a good time to kind of be in a position where you're in to kind of,
and the age that you are.
Yeah, and
you're right. You're prime real estate right now for you know, just cultivating into a future star. And I think that we're probably starting to see the beginnings of that.
Right, and obviously, I'm sure you're real happy with the opportunities and all that you're getting in Ring of Honor. You know, but just everything kind of, it seems like a, you know, a good time.
Somebody said, he's like, yeah, man, 6'3", 240 pounds. Sounds like a Johnny Ace guy to me. FCW champion. I was like, don't ever say that to me. Jinxing me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a testament to anyone that's tuning in, that's thinking about stepping out of the crowd and getting into the ring and you know, going on the journey. Sometimes takes 10 years.
Yeah.
You said you started at 16.
18. I started
Oh,
at 18.
okay. Well,
I mean, I'll
almost
take
10 years.
16, bro. I'm 24 now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen overnight.
Right.
I know what I wanted to ask you about when I had like a brain lapse earlier on. It was kind of going back to what you talked about in the beginning. I was just curious. You were in high school when you started wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell people you were training to wrestle, or was it something like you?
Towards the end of senior year, I was like, yeah, no, I can't do anything on Monday. Like, I'm going to wrestling training. They're like, wrestling? Like, that ended in December. I'm like, dog, no. You don't know. Like, I'm body slamming dudes, so watch it.
Yeah.
And then, like,
Right?
yeah. And at that time, I started putting on a little bit of size compared to, like, when I played football. So I was just like, man, which is, like, weird. My coach was like, wait, you'll work out for the WWF, but not football. I'm like, I guess I'm dumb. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of, my journey was just started there.
Wow.
Interesting. I always wonder that. Like guys like the Briscoes. I remember
Yeah.
the Briscoes, they were in high school when
They
they were
were.
wrestling and
Yeah.
they were doing shows.
Yeah, but they
Um,
used to bring out like the whole football team to watch them.
Yeah,
like they would
man.
pack
They-
that place with their high school.
When we did the shows in
Harrington.
Darrell, and
Yeah.
Laurel.
Oh, Laurel,
Laurel
yeah.
High School.
Laurel, Delaware,
man.
yeah.
They-
So I took a poetry class in my senior year. My girlfriend at the time was in there. I had asked her to prom or whatever, but like with a poem, it was really good. Probably the greatest poem I've ever written. So anyway, my teacher, what's it called? I was like doing this final project, and I was just like wrestling and working. I didn't finish the project. I wrote, yeah, I'm training to be a wrestler, all this stuff, and then she just like gave me 100 and then just asked me about it. It turns out she was like a big
Oh,
big
wow.
fan. So I was like, oh yeah, like I've been doing this since like March, like, and just started talking to her about it, and I got 100 on my final because of wrestling.
Wow.
One time I was in a car with Keenan Creed and a former MCW referee D. Edwards, and we got stopped going across the Bay Bridge or something, and we mentioned that we were going to a show and that we were doing a part of a wrestling show. And I truly believe that the trooper, whoever it was, stopped this, was intrigued by it, like, oh yeah, where? And just totally got off of what it was that we got stopped for and was kind of like in awe. Obviously we're not, The Rock and everybody like that,
Right.
but just hearing that, oh, you guys are pro wrestlers? Well, where's the show?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
So right now we're heading there right now.
Right.
We're late.
It's funny you bring that up because we were just talking about Stone Cold. So I was going to Penn State to just not for school, just to party. And then so I'm on my way there, and I literally just left training, and I'm like trying to get up there because I'm meeting people, and I'm getting there. And this turns into a work zone, so the speed dropped, and this cop just, as soon as I crossed, I was like, brother. So my eyes were like red because I was tired. I do not partake in anything else. But we were just, what's it called? I had my wrestling stuff in the back, and I was like, dude, I'm beat. Like I worked all day. Like I'm a wrestler. He's like, wrestler? Like what kind of wrestler? Like at the state college? I'm like, psh, I wish, dude. No, like professional wrestler. Like Stone Cold? I was like, dude, this dude just lost his mind. He was like, I was like, dude, I can show you my suitcase. I got all my stuff in there. Like, he goes, oh, man. He started asking me, he's like, listen, man, just slow down. Don't want to have you come up here for a ticket or whatever. I'm like, that's cool. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, Stone Cold got me out of a ticket. Shout out to Steve Austin.
Wow. Nice.
Well, you gotta imagine who would think of that as a way to get out of something. Oh yeah, I'm a pro wrestler. Like,
Right.
Right.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, they
It's-
probably always hear everything but that.
Right, yeah.
But it's funny though how many people are like closet wrestling fans. Like
Yeah.
I had a job interview. I'm a college professor, and I had a job interview at the college like 6 or 7 years ago. And my second interview question was, "Do you know Ric Flair?" And I was like, "Well, I've met him. Yeah." And okay, great. Can you start next week? Sure.
Wait, did they research you or something?
Well, it was like a friend of a friend referred me to the job, right? But it was like it was like a job that like
random question.
it was like they had an open position. It was not anything. It was not a job I'd ever worked in my life. Like I'd never been like a receptionist type person. Like,
Right,
and I was like, oh, okay. But it was one of those foot in the door things. And so it was like a friend of a friend of a friend. Oh yeah, she likes wrestling. And so
Yeah.
that was like legit my second interview question. And I was like, yeah, do you want an autograph? Like I can do this.
I'm just like imagining they're just like, I have like 4 questions. If they say yes to any of them, they're hired. So it's like, do you know Ric Flair? Yeah. Oh my God. What? Like just
Right?
blown away. He goes, cool. I don't have to ask any of these other ones.
Guys,
Yeah.
can you type? Do you know how to say
Interview over. You're high.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it
Reading,
felt like,
writing,
really.
criminal background.
Yeah, that was pretty much what it was like. Like,
That's
here, oh, you know Ric
sick.
Flair? Okay, great. Now go get your background check. Like, I mean, it was really.
That's awesome.
So bear that in mind. Just be a genuine person. Don't lie. Bring up things that are relevant. And who
Exactly.
knows?
Tell them you're a pro
You
wrestler.
never
You're a pro
know.
wrestler. If it is the case, you know.
And I will say, as a teacher, like, it makes me the cool teacher.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
if you mess around, I'm going to body slam you. You know, no, I'm really not. But, like, the students will always be like, can you do that? You know, yeah, of course. And they'll always ask, have you met so-and-so? Like, that's the whole list. The students only ever want to know who you've met. But, you know, and it's probably the same for, like, police officers and everybody else. Like, they they want a connection with who they see on TV. And you were that connection, or you were that connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I think
and you, of course, arrested Stone Cold Steve Austin. So
arrested
you have a
you.
completely
Yeah.
different
I've been
connection.
milking that for
Yeah. That's what I was
23
years.
I was going to drop that. I was going to be like, yeah, I know the cop that arrested him, man.
I still drop it
Dan, did
about
they make-
every other month on
Did they make a
Facebook.
figure of you? Is there like a playset?
No, but I
Not
posted
yet.
something. No. Someone sent, because I joke about it so much, like I'll always get like inboxes, and somebody sent me a picture, and there was two police officers, but they were Terminator from the Terminator series, and they put them
next
with
to a Stone Cold
and
figure.
sent me, and then I posted it. Obviously a joke, because like a lot of people were like they're like the Terminator police, but some people were like, holy crap, man, WWE gave you 24 years later they gave a figure to the jabroni cop.
We're running out of people.
Austin.
We're running out of people.
We need more figures.
We need-
Who was that guy that arrested Austin?
You remember that
still
extra?
posts about it on Facebook 24 years later? You know, yeah.
knows,
So, no, I
Dan?
didn't, but I made a post, and then I was sorry that I did, because I had a lot of inboxes of people like this,
I
and I'm
wanna
like,
get it.
man,
Oh, man.
it was a joke.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm
Everything's
just
for
reminding
real on
people, it's
social
not-
media.
I didn't really. People like, where are they putting those figures at? Where do I get them? Like, dude,
Collectors.
But you
Yeah.
can get a custom figure made.
yeah,
You
you
can.
can do that. Can you do that now?
Yeah, I had one
What's
for
the number?
the kids have a bruiser one.
Do they
Actually,
really?
they
Oh,
do.
that's
And then
awesome.
I made one. I took a Stephanie McMahon because when my little one was little, he wanted to have a mommy action figure as a ring announcer. So I know. So I took a Stephanie McMahon one, like Attitude Era, when she had like the business suit. And I was like, oh, that looks like something I'd wear. And I have an art degree, so it wasn't really that hard to
So
like
did you
change your
paint
hair
stuff,
color.
right.
I even put my tattoos and everything on it.
Oh, did you
yeah,
really?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that was like in his Christmas stocking that year. So, because that was what he asked for. And then like 2 years later, he got the RJ action figure. So they can be made. It's actually a really cool process. There's like, they decapitate them and then they put them in boiling water and like reshape the head and peel off all the paint and stuff. It's actually really cool to
Yeah.
Oh,
watch
really?
it. Yeah, yeah. So,
I tried to get into that when I was younger, because like when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I used to do like stop motion, like wrestling
okay.
matches, and I was just, yeah, that's probably my most viewed YouTube video. Is just like I made a CM Punk versus like Matt Sydal video, and I was just like, Evan Bourne shared it. I was like, yo, I'm
Cool.
famous, dog.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'll bring it
really
up.
cool.
If
What,
he remembers it.
Matt Cardona
Mhm.
mhm.
and Brian Myers.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Right. They
yeah,
have
their toy podcast.
a ridiculously
Yes.
successful toy podcast.
Mhm.
That's really kind of what they kind of do, right? They just kind of do
Yeah.
toys and action figures
their
and
bread
stuff
and
like
butter.
that.
Collectibles, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well,
really neat.
There's a
I
niche
mean,
for everything. There's a niche. I used to be really into collecting the figures when I was younger, and I mean, me and my buddy Rusty and all, we would. That was, probably we were kind of dorks, I guess, at 14 or 15 when some other people were doing stuff. We would Friday nights we'd get together and we'd have our matches with he'd
Yeah.
bring his action figures over and
Aw.
I bring my action figures over.
No, it was
Yeah.
the beginnings of
Yeah,
your
that was it.
pathway to
That
being
was
a
it.
promoter.
Yeah.
And I'll
Well-
tell you, when I first walked into Bone Breakers, that's the first thing that I saw was when you walked into that office, the
That's
shelf
right, I had
Yeah.
the
with
action
Honky
figures on the
Tonk
shelf,
and
yeah.
Jake
man.
Roberts and Snuka,
Yeah.
Piper. You had them all right there. Just
Oh, I say that like I was a dork or whatever. But I didn't care. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was, I was turning down dates in high school on Friday nights to watch the Mega Powers versus the Twin Towers.
and then you were in
Yeah.
school on Monday, like
Sure,
she's got
Monday.
lust in her eye. Yeah.
If she wants me, she'll stick around.
Yeah,
Oh
right?
yeah, I didn't care. I lost friendships over it. Be like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, it's happening tonight.
Yeah.
You know, like,
You guys can come over.
either
bring some
Hogan and
beers.
Savage are going to work this out. You know what I mean? Or they're not. you
Right.
know? And I need to be in front of my television watching this. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She can wait. I don't care if she's a cheerleader. She can
Heck
wait.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, she can wait. Dig it.
Well, if you want to relive your childhood and pick up some more action figures and collectibles, you know where you can go. I say it all
Hideaway
the time.
collectibles.
Hideaway
That's
collectibles.
right.
And also, I want to throw this out there. They buy collections too. So if you are looking to sell your collections, you should head over there and see what they have.
Wow, you know what? That gives me an interesting idea. There should be like a kind of like a Pawn Stars with the
Ooh.
Hideaway and sort of like,
Oh,
Dennis or
man.
whoever works in there
Yeah.
bartering with people like whole collection of
Bro,
Hasbro figures.
I
green
got
cards.
a ton of those.
Really?
I got like old LJN ones too.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I would go to this flea market in Philly, and this dude just would have just loose figures,
Mhm.
and I would just buy them. Like he knew my dad from growing up, so it was just like kind of just
The
Y-
bins of loose figures
yeah.
are the best because that's where my son got a whole bunch of them from over
Yeah.
here at our flea market because they're $2 a piece.
yeah.
You know, where you'd grab a handful and be like, "Can you take 10?" You know,
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're just trying to get rid of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what's
exactly.
really expensive is the LJN Big Boss Man. The LJN Big
If
Boss.
I have that, I'm gonna look into it.
Do you have it in the package?
Oh no.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah. You have it
okay.
in the package.
Yeah,
It's
see,
like,
that's the
yeah.
thing. You don't. So my son started getting in the habit of getting doubles of everything.
Yeah.
So like he'd ask me for one, and then he'd ask his dad for the same one,
Smart.
and like we'd talk back and forth because RJ was really good about that. Like he would keep a running list in his head of what action figures he had, and I'm like, I have no idea. I would pick them up, and I would always text him and be like, "Does he have this?" And then he's like, "Wait, he's asking you for the same ones he's asking me." But it was because by then he got older and he was wise to wanting to hang on to them in
Side hustle.
boxes, but also still play with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have several duplicates now.
Yeah, I got really into the like the Jack Specific, like they had like a classic figure line, but then they made LJN variants like that.
Oh,
were-
yeah.
that were came in like a blue case. So I have all of those still in the box, but everything else was just taken out and played with. I was like, I don't care if it's limited edition, basic edition, whatever edition, I'm playing with it.
I love the Jack Specific dolls, action figures, because I
Watch
went
it.
to WrestleMania. I went to Access in 2000. I guess it was one of the. It was either the first or the second Access that they had, and Jack Specific was there, and they had a display where you could actually stand on the spot, and they would scan your whole body, and it showed how they made the wrestlers. And so it was really wild because you would stand there and it would basically scan around you and then it would show up on the computer screen. But that was how they made the three-dimensional wrestlers and how they got all the facial features and stuff like that. And if you think, I mean, this is 2000, so the technology was great, but it wasn't like super great and like compared to what we have now. And I was just, the artist in me was just, and the tech person was like just fascinated by that. Out of all of Access,
Technology is
I was
crazy.
fascinated by the make a wrestler.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
You
it's
just
really
can't
neat.
seem to get a grasp on that Twitter.
I know. I really do like tech things. Like at my
I
work,
know.
I'm
I'm
the
just
go-to person for
teasing.
all things tech. Like I swear,
I'm
I just don't want to communicate with people. Is really what it comes down to. I feel bad saying that, but I don't know.
I mean, you can make money on Twitter.
Okay. I
So
promise to respond to a tweet.
I'm just teasing.
if you do you have a list of guys that you want to work with? Some of the other indie guys out there, people that you want to get in the ring with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lee Moriarty is.
I knew you were going to say that. I
Yeah.
was going to say his name
And
before
Larry's
you
always
said it.
talking about
we
it.
we go back and forth on Twitter sometimes, just talking. Daniel Garcia, obviously Wheeler Yuta. I teamed with Wheeler once against the Amazing Gulags back in the day, but so,
all the grapplers,
Yeah,
all the real graps.
I'm trying to think. Believe it or not, I've never worked LSG from Ring of Honor. I've never
Really?
wrestled him.
Yeah, he's-
Yeah, and we were training at the Monster Factory together. Like we did like a spot at the end of a battle royal one time, which was pretty cool. I've never worked Joe Keys one-on-one. That's one I really want to
We
do.
could probably make that.
Well, I was
Yeah,
just
we
gonna say,
could.
well, I think we got some of the booking committee here. So
Yeah,
maybe we
yeah.
can make that happen.
I'm trying to think like who else. There's a guy Thrash Justice. He's a big dude that I would just love to like get in there with.
Matt Justice?
Matt Justice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I don't even
that's
know
his-
his name
that's
actually.
His, that's his
I'm
Twitter.
kidding. Yeah,
No, you got it right.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot of times too. Someone that you see on Twitter a lot of the times, you call them the Afro-punk.
Yeah.
Trishadora, Thrash Justice.
Right.
Matt Justice. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. It's just like I'll be on Twitter, and I'm like, you know what? I think I could have a really good match with this dude. And I just think of different, like Kevin Blackwell was a guy. I was like, man, I think I could go really well with him. And we were like, we had our match, and it was pretty cool. So I was training over at H2O for a while, and I had a lot of kids come in through there that are starting to get a lot of, like Marcus Mathers. I was like, I see kids that I've worked before, and I'm like, I really want to get in there with them again. I know Action, he's a kid that I really want to get in there with. I mean, I'm sure everybody's like chomping at the bit to get in the ring with him because, I mean, he's got so much potential. He's really good.
Yeah. People just want to sink their teeth into Action.
Action Andretti.
Yeah. You ever fight Deppin yet? Have you had a one-on with Deppin?
No. So I know him from GSW way back in the day and like somewhere land PA. But now we're in ROH together, and we kind of like, we'll talk a lot, but I'm like, man, I really like want to get in there with you, especially because they're like Violence Unlimited. And I'm like, you guys got like 3 guys, we got 3 guys. Like, let's just mix it up. But we'll see what happens.
Well, you said it right here on the MCW Cast. I brought it up, and stranger things have happened when we've spoken into existence in the studio. So.
This is true. I want to ask you too, since we were talking about social media and different handles and branding and so forth. I want to ask you a little bit about your social media handles and your branding and a particular hashtag.
Busky? Oh, hashtag Busky. It kind of just started out like, as a misread text. So we were like, me and my buddies were in Florida. His brother texted me like, "Yo, where'd you put the protein at? Young boy trying to get busky." And he meant to say husky. If you look at the keyboard very closely, the H and the B are very close.
Yeah.
So if you look at the hashtag Busky that I always use, it's always pictures of huskies. And it's just, I'm like, you guys can't type. So now I'm using it. It's my thing. I've been using it since 2018.
Yeah, own it.
That's funny. And for people who want to connect with you on social media, what are your handles?
Classic E Martin on Twitter, and then Classic Eric Martin on Instagram, and then just my regular name on Facebook. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, just Eric Martin. I was blessed with 2 first names. What can I say?
They say you never trust a man with 2 first names. Remember Gregory Martin?
Yeah.
Untrustworthy.
I'm just good old Gregory Martin.
Who's Gregory Martin? Are we related?
No. Maybe.
He's your predecessor here in the land of MCW. We used him quite a bit.
Oh, cousin Greg. Right. Yeah. I got you.
He's the one that really got you in the door here.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the big reveal.
All right, well, we're going to take our last break, and then we'll come back with our weekly wrap-up. So if you want to hang around while we chop it up about what's going on in the wrestling world, we'd love to have you.
I love hanging around.
All right, we'll be right back after this short break.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast, and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, we're back here with our guest, Classic Eric Martin. Eric, the first time I can remember announcing you was on Breakthrough. You defeated Diego Cruz, and you've got a big matchup coming up on the Bruiser Strong show, 10 days away, September 17th, Friday night. It's going to be you stepping in the ring with former MCW champion Dante Caballero.
And the winner of that match goes in the Rumble.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So, and we know that the winner of the Bruiser Strong Rumble, new MCW heavyweight
So
champion.
it
That's
could
So,
be a really big night for you.
Yeah.
if you can overcome Dante.
Yeah, I already have once. I mean, he had to help
Lore.
Diaz get one over on me.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't there, and he just like laid me out after I beat Diego Cruz. I mean, all implications aside, like I've known Dante for a long, long time, and just I thought we had a mutual respect. We've teamed, but like it hit me from behind. That it just throws it all out the window. I thought we had respect for each other, and it's the Bruiser Strong Rumble, the World Championship. That's so important to me. But beating Dante and giving one back to him is all that's on my mind.
Well, Eric, you can't let your emotions get in the way of the matter at hand, and that's putting him down. And, Dante's got a lot of experience. Could you think that maybe that's his strategy against you, is to get you so worked up that you get unfocused, and then he finds himself in the Rumble and on his way back to being MCW champion again?
He can come in with whatever strategy, but everybody's got a plan until they get kicked in the mouth. I mean, you know what I mean? He's a former MCW champion. He probably wants it back. I'd imagine he's been talking about it a lot, but he's got to go through me, and then he's got to go through a Rumble. He ain't even going to get there.
What about the rest of the cartel? They've got to be a major factor. I mean,
Listen, I've already kicked a few of them around. I mean, I'm not really concerned. I mean, you can bring the whole army out. I'm on a war path right now. Dante's all I got in my sights.
Wow. Well, that sounds like you're very motivated and you've got a plan and you know what you're going to do.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
yeah, I said at the
little
top of our cast, ask MCW Cast fans, what are you looking forward to the most? And we said most of them were probably going to say the Rumble, but I don't know. This showdown right here probably is a contender for one of the most anticipated.
Definitely one of the big matches.
Yeah, grudge match, we'd
Bruiser
say.
Strong.
Yeah.
Grudge match.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's only one way to see it, and y'all know when it's going to be and where it's going down. Tara, once again, where can they get the tickets? Hideaway?
Hideaway Collectibles, Hollywood Avenue, hideawaycollectibles.com. They are an authorized ticket outlet. So if you are of the type that wants to hold a physical ticket in your hand, then head over there so that you can get them. Tickets are selling out very, very fast. I know that all of the first and second rows and third rows, I think, are gone,
Yeah,
aren't they?
it'll be a packed
Yeah,
house here by the
it
time
definitely
we get
will
here.
be. So this has been a long time coming. Everybody's really, this is personal. And so everybody is really coming out to show their support and to see who will be the next champion.
That's
so,
right.
there's a lot of speculation going on around about who it will be. And I know that it's both you and Dante are two people that RJ had his eyes on and kind
Yeah.
of took under his wing a little bit and, really wanted to see you be successful. So it is personal.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I want to do the big guy proud. I mean, he was instrumental in getting me here. Every time I came to a birthday party, he helped me out. He coached me up. He told me what I did wrong, what I could do better. He was hard on me, but he knew that because I was Keener's kid, that he could always, coach me up, and he knew that I would listen. Yeah. And I tried to get better every single time that I came back here because of him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he definitely was a fan. He could see a lot of promise in you. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he is watching down on us here in the MCW studio for the cast, looking on proudly. He is looking down on you and will be at Bruiser Strong, very proud, with pride, at one of his kids doing the damn thing and doing it well, like he trained you or had a hand in training you to execute. Well, I think that's gonna do it
a
for
wrap
this.
for this week.
A wrap-ski for this episode of the MCW Cast. For all of us here, we thank you for joining us. Thank you, Classic Eric Martin,
right.
for joining
Thank
us
you.
in the studio. And we'll see you all back here next Tuesday for another exciting edition of the MCW Cast.